That looks good. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to think about self-use today, but before we use ourselves, we want to look at the skeleton. And Bobby, do you want to pick up the computer? They can't really see. And just kind of angle it so you're kind of looking over my shoulder.
Over your shoulder.
Yeah, we need to. Okay. So the first thing before I'm going to do anything is I'm just going to center myself. So now I kind of feel centered over the student, and I can see how the student's not centered. And I'm just going to, I can kind of, I'm looking at the sternum, and I can see the pubic symphysis down there. You're not going to be able to do that on your person, but just kind of the middle part of the pelvis. And I can see how things are deviating from the center. I can see that the skull is a little turned this way.
Does that make you feel a little more compressed on one side and a little bit?
It may, to tell you the truth, I'm not even thinking about that now. I'm just thinking what's off from center, and I'm gonna try to take it all and then see, because that's all part of the pattern, right? So we can just see how all these things, some things are gonna be compressed, other things are gonna be lengthened.
The right side, maybe, because of the right side.
Yeah, and we can see the curve in the spine and things. So all that's in the pattern. We can see this shoulder is way further from the table than this shoulder. We can see the scoliosis and the lordosis, the curve in the spine here. We can see one leg is turned out a whole bunch more than the other one. One knee is much further off the table than the other one. The right leg's much closer to the center of him than the left leg. So let's just think of that. We're thinking of centering, right? And if we edit, if we're thinking about compression and all this other stuff, it's like, oh my God, it's too much information. It's information overload. But if I'm looking, and if we start at the feet, we can say, oh, look, the right foot is further from the table. It's closer. The right foot's closer to the center than the left foot. The right heel is closer to the center than the left heel. The right knee is closer to the center than the left knee is. We're looking up, and we're looking and we're saying, oh, look, it looks like the spine is curved away from the center toward the left. The left shoulder is closer to the center than the right shoulder.
Isn't it curving towards the right?
I'm just looking at center.
No, you said to the left.
Well, I'm seeing this. Oh, wait. Yeah. So here's the tailbone here, and here's this. That's kind of there. And if I'm looking at this part here, right here, here's the center of the spine.
Yeah, but this is angled this way.
Well, yeah, that's angled. It depends on what part of the spine, right? Look at this cross here. This cross here is toward the left. The tailbone here is pointed to the right, right? Because it's like that. So we can see how compared to the head here and the sternum here, we can see that the spine is deviated from the center. It looks like it's twisted to the left, maybe we could say. So that's what we're doing, is we're taking the idea center and we're seeing what's deviating from the center. This is turned up, coming in toward the center. This is more lengthened away from the center, and we can see the head is turned a little to the right. A little, it's not quite center. Center would be here, but he chose to put himself here.
Different directions.
Right. So that's a nice thing. And, maybe we'll start with this, because we're starting with observations, and I might as well, because it goes with the observation, is to do what Jerry did with me with an FI. I kind of wanted to go with self-use, but this really goes with that. Okay, so here's the idea. We're seeing all these things, but does this person know these things? So I asked him, and this could be me on the table with Jerry because it's the same thing, or not. And I asked, and if I ask him, which of your legs feel closer to your center? And let's say this person says my left leg. And we say, oh, your left leg. Well, let's see. You know, rather than saying, what the hell's wrong with you? Can't you feel where you are? Right? So let's see. And we'll say, well, here's your right leg. I'm going to take your right leg to the center of you, and then I'm going to put it back. And now I'm going to take the left leg to the center of you and put it back. Now, is it easier for you to feel now which leg is closer to the center of you? So now we're working with their own self-awareness. And rather than us telling them what the answer are, we're just gently bringing one of the feet to the center, taking it back, and the other one. So they can experience for themselves the distance from the leg was. Because the thing is, this feels normal. This is his center. And a lot of times, I guess I can call it subjective center, what feels center and neutral to us is not center and neutral objectively. Right? So compared to what we're seeing objectively, it may be very different to what he's feeling. So now he's getting this sense, oh, this foot is further from the center of this foot. And then we can do the same thing with the arms, right? We can, poor guy. You know, which elbow's closer to your center? We could say, okay, this is your right elbow. This is your left elbow. Or you can do hand, whatever you want to do. You know, we can also go with the shoulders, right? Which shoulder is closer to your center? And maybe says, oh, my right shoulder is. And we can say, okay, well, this is bringing your left shoulder toward the center. And now I'm going to bring your right shoulder the same amount. So by working with the idea of center and bringing both sides to the center, you're helping them find in their self-image. You're helping them feel where they may be a little bit inaccurate and where you can help them find more accuracy with this thing, right? With the head. Jerry did this with my head and said, this is where you feel like the center of your head is. But, and usually you just, you may want to do some HeadFI stuff or not. But actually, this is the center of your head. This is your head being centered. And it's not that this is wrong and this is right. It's just giving you a feeling of where you are now compared to where the center of you is. So you can compare the two and hopefully adjust your self-image a little bit more.
Okay, stop. I gotta go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Yeah, that makes sense to you two there?
It
Yeah.
did, and thank you for holding the camera. That was very helpful.
Bobby,
Yeah,
thanks.
Bobby did a great job with that because you can't really see on this angle here.
I'll come back to the skeleton of this wall.
Now, what you could do is you can mix this other part here too, is you can rather Well, actually, that might be a good thing to do in the start. And then you may want to plan your FI around that. And then at the end, you could do the same thing with the feet and the arms and see if it's more balanced and more centered. But now for this other part, I kind of want to get into self-use. So we did that whole centering thing, that whole breathing thing. And the first thing I want to do is get myself situated. And I'm going to start with rolling the head, you know, the famous Moshe way of rolling the head. And rather, I'm not centering myself to the table or to him, I'm centering myself to his head. So because the head's a little turned and stuff, I'm gonna just kind of get myself lined up. So I'm perpendicular, and my belly button is pretty much closely aligned to his nose. And now I'm thinking about my sit bones on the chair, my feet, my top of my sit bones. Okay, so now I'm feeling centered myself. I'm kind of looking and guessing which way may be easier. And now I can think about doing this a variety of ways. So this way, all what I'm doing is I'm going to my center. I'm thinking, get on top of my right sit bone, come back to my center. And play around with all these different ways, because you may find one you like. And if I want to go the other way, now I'm playing around with getting on top of my left sit bone and returning back to center. So that's one way to do it. What I find with that way, the nice thing is I can keep my arms really soft and light because all the work has been done here from my center. The limiting thing I find with this, if he's able to roll more, what stops him from going more isn't him, it's me. I'm running out of room here to go. Now, another option I have is I can think about keeping myself stable in center and feeling my shoulder blades kind of slide around the rib cage and using movement of the shoulder blade. That's not bad, that's kind of nice. So now I'm thinking about the centering myself, but my shoulder blade rotating around my center. Tell you the truth, I think I like that one more. I'm keeping nice and centered, and I'm just thinking about the shoulder blade and that arm lengthening. It's almost like the lengthening of the arm ATM, where you keep your torso stable and you just feel the shoulder blade and the arm sliding forward and back. So that's another way you can play with it. All right, and then to keep Michelle happy, because she likes 3 of everything, we can do a combo. So I can shift a little toward, I'm going to combine all of them. I'm going to shift toward my right sit bone, feel my shoulder blade go, and then add a rotation. And with this, I find I'm not really running out of room. Even if if he was the exorcist, I could keep kind of going that way. So play, you know, there's 3 ways that you can play with this with self-use. And you may find that one of these things work much, much better than others. You guys want to see Milani play with it a little bit, or do you want me to just run through all these things?
I'm happy to hear more running through since that sounds like a teaser. I also think at some point, if Mel lies down and is up for it and you roll her head using these different techniques, I'd be curious how she experiences, or maybe she could roll your head and you can tell us if you can feel where she is.
Yeah, and you know what, I think that's a good idea, so maybe we'll let Mel roll my head, maybe we'll just kind of move to another table, so we don't have to reset everything.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how far we get, this may, to tell you the truth, this may be enough for this week. You know, I would rather have people master just one little bit, maybe we'll just do head stuff this week. Want to see Mel.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll just do things with the head.
You really sit on this table, Tom.
Oh no,
Mhm.
the nice thing about me is table is huge, I can fit on that no problem.
Yeah, okay, so can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. So, just doing the observation here,
But
of course, first thing, you know, looking down, lining my belly button already to his nose and chin, and then with that one, the angle actually is going from my belly button to his nose, down towards his left foot, his left leg. So that's if it was going straight down him that way. I don't want to change any here.
yeah, but
And
that's good, yeah,
yeah,
so you're
right.
noticing what's off center, good.
Yeah. And from his, I guess first I have to line up to what would I kind of imagine
Right.
being his real center.
Right, so if you're starting with your first basic observation, right?
Yeah.
So see if you
Yeah.
can find
And
a
finding-
center
yeah,
line
and
and the
finding
center
that center
point,
line.
and then you can compare the head and the limbs from it, but
Uh-huh.
the spine is a good place to start, even though it
Exactly.
may be, or maybe, you know, maybe the sternum is what looks like it's very good.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So going down, well, what's kind of interesting is that initially I thought the two legs were pretty even from center, but now I'm kind of like fine tuning my senses here. And it's possible that the right leg is a little closer to center. I'm not sure, you know? I could be
So
thinking
go
that
test it out.
could be a tiny bit.
Yeah, so what you're gonna do, because that's of interest to you, which
Yeah.
one's closest, and you're gonna walk around to where the feet are.
Maybe I'm wrong, it could be other, it could be both very even. They're
Well,
fairly
take
close.
one, you're gonna take one foot and bring it to center, and then take the other foot and bring it to center.
Yeah. So, we'll take this one first,
Tom, when you've used this with people, have you talked to them while doing it? Like for Mel, would she say, which, you know, do you have a sense that one leg's further away from the center than the other? And then say, let's see how this one comes close to the center, or what do you do?
Well,
But I should ask you first,
Yeah.
which foot do you, before I did that, even now, which foot do you think is closer to center for you?
Right, here, I'm just gonna shake it off and reset.
Okay,
Okay, so what I'm feeling is where the left foot is turned out more and where the
Yeah.
heel is touching
yeah,
the table,
yeah. It just turned out.
where the heel is touching the table. I'm feeling maybe this one's slightly further out.
Slightly further out.
Yeah, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I know. Okay,
Because with the leg being turned out, it's possible that the heel may be closer.
yeah, I know. I did see that. That's why I made
Right,
my
but that's,
initial hypothesis.
right,
more
and
turned
that's
out.
why it's good
This is what
to,
turned out.
where you see the heel touching the
Mhm.
table, you wanna take that part of the heel and touch that part of the heel to the center.
Okay, so I'll do with the one that's, you think is actually closer, right?
Yeah.
So this is the part that's touching the table.
Mhm.
And I don't change the orientation of the leg or?
No.
Okay. So we're coming over to center. Right here. Mhm. So because it's turned out more, to come to center, it needs to rotate more,
Yeah, and then they need to rotate more a little bit, and that's fine, you just wanna move it easily.
Yeah. So do I let go of my hand to let you feel it?
Yeah, and you can just let the foot kind of rest on the floor a little bit.
Okay. Try this one again. Yeah. So.
But now that kind of gives me a better idea of where center is.
Okay, good, okay.
So-
Just leave
So
that.
it's easy, yeah, so that's good, and you don't even have to answer it for him,
Mhm.
you just say, this is where you started.
Yeah,
This is in the middle of you, this is where you started, and you
Mhm.
just let the person feel and
Yeah.
experience that.
I'm sorry, I should have angled the camera. You guys couldn't see Tom's feet down here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. That's great.
The storytelling gave me a pretty good sense of the process, so thank you.
yeah. So he was saying this foot looked more turned out. This
Uh-huh.
is less, and then Tom felt this foot was further away from the center. Just pointing to it. So the left, and then we just keeping that where the feel touch the table. I just moved it towards center, but rotating the foot a little bit in order to make it an easy movement, and then let him feel it, and did the same for the other side. And then we're just leaving that. So now we're just looking at the arms. Can you see okay here with the arms? Yeah. If we had a little more height, it would be better, but I don't know.
If you just lift the camera up for a minute so we see both arms, then I know, then set it down, we can just hear the narration.
We have anything that actually could stand on anything.
Yeah,
Make it
yeah,
better.
that may work.
Yeah, I think so. This is a
boost.
little higher
Yeah.
thing. Help, I think you
Yeah.
see down more, but I can, briefly show you the arms so we can look at it together.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Oh, thanks.
Can you see it now?
He
Mhm.
does, he needs a
Back.
bigger table.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, don't worry
So-
about the arms, do the shoulders.
In the shoulders, yeah.
You know,
Well,
which shoulders.
Tom is wearing black, so it's a little harder to see
Yeah.
visually, but Yeah, mm-hmm. I'm gonna just angle it this way. You got to see all of Tom for now.
Yes.
Okay,
And you'll be able to
So-
feel when you put your hands behind.
yeah. Mainly I see more wrinkles in his shirt here on the right and less wrinkles here. So that makes me feel and that this shoulder looks a little more, oh, yeah, I feel this shoulder is higher, the right shoulder is further away. Maybe I should ask you first, should I?
No,
Or-
well, you can ask. For me, it
Uh-huh.
feels like this shoulder's closer to my center than this shoulder.
Ah, interesting. Ah, because I feel this is higher from the table, ergo closer to the center. Uh-huh.
This.
But closer to
Feel-
the table,
it's-
this is closer
it's-
to the table. I agree
Well,
with that.
and you can feel behind each shoulder.
You're right. I do agree with you. This is closer to the table.
No, I feel further. from
Oh,
the
further.
center.
You feel this is further from the
So
table.
put your hand behind both shoulders.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Well, and that's the
This is
that,
further away.
right, but that, that's why we don't really want to say anything.
Don't say anything till we feel.
Well, we all have our, we look and see with our eyes and we think, okay, this is what I think's happening.
Yeah, because I saw all those wrinkles.
Yeah, and it could be for something else, but
Mm.
that's why you always want to use your hands
Mhm, mhm,
to confirm what you may or may not be seeing.
mhm, mhm.
So, you're not really gonna say which one's high and what's going on.
Mhm,
What you're gonna say, okay, I think the right one's a little higher, a little further from the
Mhm,
table, but let me use my
mhm,
hands.
mhm. Okay,
So now what you
Yeah.
can do with hands under both shoulders,
now do I move this elbow closer? 'Cause that's
No.
where yours- or no?
you just leave them where they are, put the
Okay.
hands under the shoulder.
Okay,
Now roll, this one's further from the table, so just roll this one a little to the center.
so-
Okay, like that much,
Mhm,
okay, and now I can feel how much you moved it. You moved it that much.
mhm,
Now move the other shoulder the same amount
mhm,
forward.
mhm.
So how far did this one go up? It went up this far, right?
Mhm,
You
mhm.
wanna roll the other one up the same amount.
Yeah, but I don't need to get closer to the center, because that to me, because this one is already. Okay, let's go see. This one.
Okay, so look, you can see,
Mhm.
you feel how far that is off the
Yeah,
table?
mhm,
Now roll this shoulder off the table the same
mhm,
amount.
okay.
And so what I'm feeling, you have to roll this shoulder a lot more than you have to roll this one to do the same amount.
Mhm,
So it's giving me the feeling,
mhm,
right, that this one doesn't need much to go a little to the center. This one needs to go a lot more.
lot
So this
more.
one's a lot closer to the table than that.
mhm,
I'm getting that sensation with movement, so I can,
mhm,
that's how I'm feeling. Oh yeah, this one is further from the floor because it doesn't need to move as much as this one.
mhm,
Because it's
mhm,
closer to the floor.
mhm. Okay,
Yeah, good.
all right. And then we're just at the head. Right?
Yeah, then we can go to the head
Mhm.
and you can
And then
just,
just move it to the center?
Yeah.
Like this would be center.
Mel, would you mind moving the camera up a little bit so we can see how you're sitting? Two, like Tom was on the skeleton.
my backpack.
And to that, can you see?
That's good.
maybe At his
Yeah.
whole body, or I think this,
Yeah,
Get-
and they
get
don't
the
really
stool.
need to see my legs, the
then you
head.
would see the head and the torso.
That's good. And we can see a little of your self-use.
Yeah, okay. Is that, can you see now more or less, at least
I-
me?
Good for me. Good for you, Janet.
Yeah. I could, you saw the the shot down though,
Yeah.
right? What
Yeah.
I'm doing is, his head, is a little bit, off
And I'm,
center.
I'm anticipating you're rolling the head, so maybe I'm too far ahead of you, but that's,
I'm just moving it.
We're
forward.
not-
not yet, but eventually.
Centering his head so that he sees that's the center, and then moving it back to him for him, to what he likes, his normal, his solution. Are you with,
Say that again, you took his head to center and then put it back to where it started.
you feel it, just
Okay.
like we do with their
The
shoulders. and
difference
his feet.
between my center and what center really is.
Okay, got it.
And what's nice about this is
Got it.
my center is comfortable, and I don't feel any strain.
Mhm.
Put my head back to objective center, we'll call it.
Mhm.
So now when she does this, I feel a strain in my neck here, and I feel a strain in my
It
lower
doesn't
back
feel-
here,
Doesn't feel.
because it's not my pattern.
No.
So, you know, this will help people realize that sometimes being straight
Mhm.
and being center is not a good thing for you, because it's not your pattern, and it's actually creating more strain than
Uh-huh.
it's not helping, it's making things worse rather than better. And sometimes that's an important thing to realize, that, you know, maybe perfect posture isn't gonna work for you this time, because it's putting you so far out of what your normal pattern is that it's creating stresses.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because that's an important lesson for people to learn, that, you know, being centered and being straight isn't always necessarily the answer. Okay, good.
Yeah,
And now we could get toward growing.
yeah, and then just like in the beginning, I'm centering myself first, over my sits bones. And I had already aligned myself to, his center. I'm just trying to use my pelvis to roll. And you're right, this is about as far as I go. So, using the pelvis.
So you
Okay,
just
I'm not
shifting onto
using-
your sit
Yeah,
bone,
I'm
right?
just shifting onto my sits bones. Going to the,
And yet you're going all the way through them now.
yeah, I'm not using my arms at all.
Look at my feet.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, you know, for me, she doesn't really have to do much more than that, because it's going all the way through. There's no place more to go.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody who's a practitioner, you know, you may find that you may not have to roll the head that much. You know, be organized pretty quickly.
Mhm. And, well, then I don't know if I even need to switch hands and do the same thing. Should I just go to the arms? using the
Yeah,
arms
do
and
both
shoulder?
hands.
Okay, we'll do both hands. And this is using the other hand, but only using my pelvis to roll. So,
Yeah, and even though it's a little motion, Mel,
yeah.
because you're moving from your center, I mean, you're really dialed in and connected. It's a very, it's not a strong connection, but it's a
Yeah.
powerful connection.
Interesting.
Yeah, you feel like how you have my
Yeah, I
whole spine
do.
and pelvis.
Feel
Yeah.
like it, but yeah, but right,
So that's what you
Interesting.
get with the pelvis. It's like in
very
baseball.
centered, yeah.
When somebody has that short, compact swing with their
Mhm.
pelvis in a powerful way, they don't have to take a long, loopy swing. Okay, but try it the other ways too.
So now this is really just using my shoulder body. My upper body. It's hard to just actually, for me to just use only the shoulders without engaging to my hip. But once I get to the hip part, I'm trying to like.
Well, start with the shoulder blade.
Yeah,
and
I'm
when you
just
feel
starting with
that
the
you
shoulder
run out of
blade.
room with your shoulder blade, then shift. under the other sit bone or turn your pelvis.
Yeah.
So you're starting with that. Okay, so what I'm feeling, guys, is when Mel does this, I'm feeling a lot more movement through my shoulder girdle. She's by her
Interesting.
shoulder blade going, I feel more in the collarbone. Instead of connecting right into
Down
the
to your
spine,
base,
into
yeah.
the pelvis, into the legs, immediately, I'm feeling more happening in here. So with the way that my shoulder were in the beginning of the lesson, with this one being so far off, this is a really nice way of rolling the head because I feel more involved in it here. So that's a very cool thing.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to hear. Thank you. Mel, when you were doing it, you were very much keeping your head in alignment with the way the shoulders were moving. So which meant you weren't looking at him the whole time. Was your sense that could you look at him and find the movement in your shoulder?
Yes, look toward my center and think that you're rotating your arm around your center. There you go. And now she has even more of the shoulder girdle and even more shoulder blade. I'm getting more of the twist and the movement in the rib cage. So it's really cool how Mel organizes herself has a very, very powerful impact on, and I feel more rotation in the legs. It has a very powerful impact of the way the pattern is going through me.
So Mel, can I just clarify that you're starting with your shoulder blade and then using your pelvis? Or is that mainly the shoulder blade?
Only using my shoulder and my torso to twist. But Martha asked me to keep my head, more looking in the center, straight forward and not turning. This is my first time I allowed my head to turn, so I wasn't able to just keep my head movement, looking. And this obviously is much more interesting for me to do it this way, to find that organization.
Yeah.
Where my torso can twist and I'm
Well,
able
try
to
it
keep my
without
head centered.
keep your head, your torso, your pelvis centered, and just rotate the shoulder blade and the arm around the ribs. So all of you centered and just the shoulder blade and the arm.
And I'm just curious to understand how it's working, not to just how is it like for you? And I'm thinking, because sometimes I know, we close our eyes so that we are not watching the pattern and then open to see if what we feel, what we think we're seeing, we also feel if we don't use our eyes. So I was curious, because if you are turning, because I could see how nicely that helped you organize, that was my interpretation. It then meant if you wanted to see what he was doing, you would have had to look back. So I'm just getting information of how that's working for you. And if you do want to be seeing what he's doing while you're working primarily from the shoulders, how it works to stay centered and looking with your eyes versus a more full body movement for you.
And that's a good idea, Martha. So Alana, close your eyes. Now put your hand on the floor, close your eyes. Now all of you centered and just the arm and the shoulder blade. You can feel that's very different. Very different. Just feel how the contact of my head changes with the floor as you just move the arm and shoulder blade. Feel the rolling of the head. And now there's more rotation through the neck, more rotation in the spine. So this is creating yet another pattern. And I'm feeling my arm and my leg rotating a lot more with this one.
Yeah,
I can really see the rotation into the hip.
Yeah, because by closing my eyes, really, I'm just I can really feel his head, the bottom of his head rolling all the way.
And
It is it's nice we're creating all these new options.
Well, if the intention is rolling the head,
Yeah.
okay, that's the intention, rolling the head. That was the best head rolling that you did out of all of these so far.
Right, because even for me, because I felt it too.
Yeah,
It was just like smoother, but I could just feel the bottom of his head, the back of his head rolling. Because it kind of like took the whole, I don't know. Actually you get too much input. You're using the input from your eyes instead of your hands, you know?
Yeah,
So by closing the eyes, it's the only input I'm getting is from my hand, from the touch, you know? So it enhances or amplifies for me what I'm doing just through my touch alone.
Nice.
Is that helpful?
Just
Or-
so you know, Mel, for me, the takeaway from MBS is you can get all too much information all at one time, right? So it's systematizing for yourself and just following your intention. So if you're thinking, you know, if I have my eyes open and I'm seeing what happens, then if I close my eyes, does it make a difference for both of you, right? Because you're in this interactive loop. How do you feel it? How do you feel the change in what Tom's doing? So you know it from more than one way. Lear used the, like you shine the light in from several directions to understand the patterns and work with the patterns. That's how I think of the combining versus each one.
Nice, yeah, no, it enhances the experience for him, but also for myself in terms of, as you said, you know, our perception, our experience, yeah.
And Lear focuses it on a question. What do I see? You know, what do I feel? How are those? Are they the same? Are they different? It's that kind of systematic exploration.
That's nice. Thank you, Martha. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, turning it into a question. Good.
yeah, again, linking the question into your intention, right? So the intention is rolling the head.
Mhm.
And so the first question is, am I in fact rolling the head? You know, am I feeling the contact of the head rolling with the surface? You know, and for that, it's like, well, can I feel this better if I close my eyes? So once you have yourself and you think, okay, this feels like I'm rolling the head in a very nice, smooth way. Now I'm doing my intention. I'm doing what I'm actually intending to do. Now I can start to open my eyes. I can see how far down the movement is. I can see, you know, the sequence of the movement. So if we think in terms of in between, right? The first in between is the contact of the head rolling with the floor. Then you can bring in the other questions and the other in-betweens to see what's happening through the movement.
That's really nice.
If you're
Actually, the
not
next question, right, is how far down do you feel it go? Which I think
right,
seems like what you were getting at earlier. And this sort of returns to a more simple sequence. Is the head rolling? Do you feel it rolling? Do you see it with your eyes? Do you feel it with your hands? Then how far down does it connect comes next.
yeah, so
Agree?
that's the first thing, the contact with the floor, and that's why that's one of the first in-betweens, right? The contact with the floor is telling us whether we're doing what we're thinking we're doing. So is the head rolling? Do I feel the change in contact? Or is it sliding and rolling a little? Or is my hand sliding and rolling a little? So yeah, you gotta meet the intention first and work with the intention in a precise quality way to open the door to all the other questions.
So now, do you feel more centered as a result?
Oh yeah, for now I feel a lot more centered. So now what you can do is you did all these different ways, put it together your way. So it may be a little arm and shoulder blade, it may be a little rotating the pelvis, it may be shifting to a sit bone. Just kind of play with it, you know, all these different combinations and find a way where you can feel the head rolling, but it feels really easy and natural for you. That's super clear. You know, yeah, I'm just feeling my head clearly roll, and it's just very smooth and a nice sequence with no bumps or spots. And for me, it just felt like everything moved and blended in a nice way. How'd that feel for you?
But like same quality of smoothness, kind of lightness, and also that connection down further to yourself, you know, this is back to your pelvis.
And Mel, this idea you give yourself an FI too, do you feel more centered?
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Okay, so now what you can do,
I
Will,
feel good, you know, that's the
Yeah.
nice part, you know.
we're not done yet, almost done.
Mhm.
Now take my head and put it back to center.
Mhm.
Okay, so what I'm feeling is, for one thing, it wasn't as uncomfortable for you to put my head back in center. And for another thing is, I'm more comfortable in the center position. I don't feel the pulling in the back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Although I'm still not quite centered yet,
Mhm.
but I'm more centered. I felt more centered. You didn't have to move me as much.
Mhm.
But the nice thing for me, it didn't feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So it felt, you know, like maybe that could be possible at the time. So it's, you know, did you guys spent, or do you want to do the next part of this?
I'm game for the next part.
Yeah, so am I.
Time wise.
Yeah, I do have something I have to leave by 12:30, because I have another, I have something by at 1, so I have to leave at 12:30, because I have a packing up to do for tomorrow's Google workshop.
Totally.
So, maybe we have half an hour, then we can wrap up.
Yeah, okay, so what I'll do is let me do this with Milani. And you guys can kind of see what this is like, and we'll see how much time we have left. Then we
Sure.
could we can
Totally.
just-
And I would like you guys to make the most of being there together. So don't worry as much about camera angles and things, because if you talk it through, I get a lot from that. That's me. Janet may have preferences, but I go with what you can do. So.
Uh, you know what, I'm thinking maybe what I'll do is just do the same thing quickly with Milani so she can feel it. And maybe it's just good to leave it here and let you guys practice just this week.
Okay,
That's
And
fine.
then,
Will you just
we'll
say
get into the lifting of the head and doing that next week.
okay, that's what's next. I just wondered what it was. So thank you. That sounds good.
Well, yeah, the next part will be lifting the head, because there's things we can do with lifting the head and how we can move it that will help the head get more comfortable in the same position.
That was my hunch that it might be that, but I didn't know. So thank you.
Yeah, you know, that's where I would go next with that, with the lifting the head, because and with some people, it could be just the turning of the head, it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, with me, it wasn't quite there. So lifting the head would be the next sensible place. Or if you want to maximize your session, right, you just call it Dan at that by there. You have them do some turning things, sitting, some turning things, standing, send them on the way, and do the lifting the head the next day, the next session.
Would you do the centering for them even in the sitting, just like we did, you know, and have a little breathing? Because I think a lot of people spend their times sitting, you know, in front of this or that in their work.
That's a good way to end the
And
lesson.
I think end the lesson with them saying, you know, I'm sitting now, help you find your
Yeah.
center.
What I would do is, keeping in mind the editing, if the goal is to get them feeling more centered sitting, I wouldn't do a lot of standing stuff. I wouldn't do anything standing stuff after the sitting. I would maybe do the sitting and getting up, centering yourself sitting, and then using the centered position to help you get up easy, and then that's it. Because you want to pretty much leave them. Once they have that good sense of sitting, you kind of want to lead them with that. So that's the last thing they remember. That's the last thing that is really felt. So it's easier for them to find themselves. Because if we do that, and then we do standing and a bunch of standing and turning things, and then a bunch of walking stuff, that sitting stuff is gone. It's blowing in the wind. So what your intention is, what you're trying to teach, end on that point, and make sure they get it, they understand it. Give them homework so they can do that little bit where they can find that again, what they want, within a minute or two, so they can practice that a little bit each day, and then they'll own it.
Nice.
I like
Okay, well, I think we're gonna let you guys go. I'm just gonna do this with a little bit with Milani. And then we'll do lifting the head next time.
Great,
Sounds great.
thank you.
Yeah, that was good. So thank you guys for being here, and we got some of it recorded, so I'll send a recording along to everyone.